Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're talking about feeding animals. Well, not just animals. We're talking about a plan to completely change how one of India's biggest states feeds its livestock.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge.
Like, picture this. Resilient grasses, innovative cropping systems, and maybe even some cactus farming. Get ready to learn why feeding cows in India matters to all of us.
And what's so cool about this plan is that it brings together traditional farming knowledge with the latest research. This is a real problem, and this plan is trying to fix it in a way that could change things for food security, farmer livelihoods, and even global food prices.
So we're talking about Uttar Pradesh, right?
Right.
Can you give us a little background on this plan? What exactly arts is it?
Okay, so the plan is called the Fodder Resources Development Plan for Uttar Pradesh. Catchy, right?
Definitely rolls right off the tongue.
Well, the name's a mouthful, but the goal is simple. To solve the problem of fodder shortages in Uttar Pradesh. It comes from IGFRI, which is the Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute. They're like the grass gurus.
The grass gurus, I like it. Okay, Uttar Pradesh. Now that name rings a bell. It's big, right?
Big doesn't even begin to describe it. It's the fourth largest state by area in India and the absolute largest by population.
Wow, okay. So a lot of people and a lot of land.
And a lot of agriculture. Uttar Pradesh is a major agricultural producer for India. But here's the catch. They don't have enough animal feed, as in not nearly enough.
So a shortage of grass basically means less food for everyone.
Exactly. It impacts everything. Livestock health, milk production, food prices. It even has implications for the whole country, not just Uttar Pradesh.
Okay, so this plan, it's not just as simple as telling farmers to plant more grass, right?
You're catching on. It's way more strategic than that. What's fascinating is how detailed and specific it gets. They've divided Uttar Pradesh into nine distinct agricultural zones. Nine. And each one has a different climate, different challenges, you name it.
So each zone gets its own plan.
Precisely. It's like a personalized diet plan, but for grass. They recommend different fodder crops for each zone based on what will grow best in those specific conditions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So walk me through some of these zones and what they're planting.
Okay, so say you're in an irrigated area where water is plentiful. They're suggesting things like Bajra Napier hybrid, guinea grass, and sorghum. These are known for their high yields, and importantly, they're packed with nutrition.
Okay, those names sound vaguely familiar from my extensive weekend research on grasses.
Of course.
But what about the areas that maybe aren't as suitable for, traditional farming? What happens in those regions?
That's where it gets really interesting. They're exploring something called hortipasture. Imagine this, integrating fodder crops right there in existing fruit orchards.
Oh, wow. Talk about maximizing land use.
Exactly. And for the larger areas that are considered non-arable, the plan suggests replanting with tougher stuff. Think hardy grasses and trees that are specifically chosen for their use as fodder.
Wait, hold on. They're planting trees for the animals to eat.
It's a smart move, actually,
Right.
especially in areas where, they're dealing with deforestation or the land is kind of beat up.
Right.
These trees, they're like multitaskers. They provide nutritious fodder, obviously, but they also help improve the soil. And they can even prevent erosion, which is a big deal. So it's a win-win for the farmers and, well, the whole environment, really.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Okay, so it sounds like they've really thought of everything here.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned cactus earlier. Are we talking about those big prickly pear cacti you see in desert landscapes?
That's the one. Prickly pear cactus, it's like the ultimate survivor.
Yeah.
Seriously, it can handle drought like nobody's business, and it's a valuable source of, get this, both food and water for livestock.
Whoa. Cactus for cows. That's what I call thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
What about moringa? I feel like I've been hearing a lot about moringa lately. It's like, what, a superfood or something? For both people and animals. Is that part of this plan too?
Oh, absolutely. Moringa, it's like the rock star of the plant world, packed with nutrients. And the best part is it can grow in some pretty tough conditions. This plan definitely recognizes its potential, let me tell you. They're recommending it, especially for boosting milk production and, well, overall livestock health.
It's like they went through a whole encyclopedia of amazing plants and were like, yep, we need those and those and those. But, okay, I get that they're trying all these different plants. But I imagine it can't just be about what you plant, right? Don't they have to think about how to manage it all too? Are there other aspects of this plan that really stood out to you?
You hit the nail on the head. It's not just about the crops, it's about the whole system,
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at ways to use things that other people might just throw away.
What do you mean?
We'll take crop residues, for instance, like, the straw that's left over after you harvest rice.
Oh, right, right. So they're taking something that's basically waste and turning it into a usable resource.
You got it. One of the techniques they're promoting is treating this paddy straw with urea. It's a pretty simple process, actually, but it helps break down the tough fibers in the straw, making it easier for the animals to digest. And that means more nutrition for the animals.
So less waste, more food for the animals.
I like it. What else are they doing to, make the most of their resources?
Fodder conservation. That's a big one.
Fodder conservation. So that's
Preserving the fodder they do have so they can use it later. We're talking about hay making, silage making.
yeah.
These are tried and true methods for storing surplus fodder. So then, when it's the dry season and fresh grass is hard to come by, they've got backups.
It's like they're prepping for those, lean times.
Exactly. And with the weather being so unpredictable these days, being prepared is more important than ever. They're also promoting these things called feed blocks.
Feed blocks.
They're basically like concentrated blocks of nutrients made from different kinds of fodder. Easy to store, easy to transport.
Like energy bars, but for cows.
Yeah. Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So they got the crops, they got ways to store the food. But what about the farmers themselves? How are they going to learn all of this stuff? Like, what good is a plan if the people who need to use it don't know how?
Excellent point. This plan doesn't just hand over a pamphlet and say, good luck. Knowledge transfer, that's a big part of this whole thing. They're setting up these master trainer programs, right? At IGFRI, the grass gurus we talked about. And these programs, they train government officials on, all the latest and greatest in fodder production.
So you're training the trainers. A classic strategy for a reason. But how do you reach the farmers directly?
They thought of that too. They're planning to have a bunch of frontline demonstrations, so they're basically going to be showing these new techniques in action on actual farms.
Nothing like a good demo, right? Seeing is believing and all that.
100%. But, not all farmers have the same resources, right? What about the farmers who don't have access to fancy equipment or, the latest tools? How does the plan address that?
That's a good question.
Well, they've got a plan for that too. Enter Krishi Visyan Kendras, or KVKs for short.
KVKs. Okay, gotta be honest, those are a new one on me. What are those?
Basically, they're like agricultural science centers spread out all over the place that give farmers access to training and, just as important, resources.
So kind of like agricultural extension offices.
Exactly. They're the link between, the big research ideas and what's actually happening out in the fields. And get this, they even want to set up these custom hiring centers where farmers can rent the equipment they need.
Oh, smart. Like those tool lending libraries, but for tractors and stuff. So they're making it easier for even small farms to use these new techniques.
Yeah.
This is a seriously comprehensive plan. They've thought of everything, haven't they? But all these awesome plants and new techniques,
Yeah.
they need seeds, right? You can't exactly conjure up a field of super cactus without starting with some seeds.
You're preaching to the choir. Seeds are the foundation. And yeah, you need the right kind of seeds. Can't just be scattering any old seeds around and hoping for the best.
Exactly.
This plan, though, they get it. They actually call for setting up these micro nurseries and seed multiplication programs. So they're really thinking about how to get those high quality seeds into the hands of the farmers, without breaking the bank.
So it's not just about having enough seeds. It's about having the right seeds for the right places.
Yeah.
This plan is seriously impressive. But, okay, let's zoom out for a second. We've been talking about, the immediate needs, more fodder, better techniques, all that. But what about the bigger picture? Does this plan, look ahead to the future at all?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just about fixing the problem today. It's about building a system that's more resilient, more sustainable for the long haul.
Okay, now you're talking. Tell me everything about this long-term vision.
One of the coolest things is this idea of fodder banks.
Fodder banks. Like banks, but for grass.
Kind of. Imagine, these strategically placed storehouses, right? And they're full of fodder that's been, preserved and stored properly. Hay, silage, all that good stuff.
So it's like a backup supply. What happens if there's a drought or crazy flooding? The farmers, they have somewhere to turn to.
Bingo. Those fodder banks, they act as a safety net for the whole system. They protect the livestock, which means milk production stays stable, which means the farmers' livelihoods are more secure. It's all connected. And that's not all. They also want to encourage these public-private partnerships, PPPs?
Right. PPPs, those can be super effective. It's like you're combining the efficiency you usually get from the private sector with, the broader reach and support of the government.
Exactly. It's the best of both worlds. And then last but definitely not least, this plan, it's not just set in stone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They're big on monitoring and impact assessments. So the idea is to keep track of everything that's happening, figure out what's working, what's not working, and actually make changes along the way. So it's constantly evolving.
So it's not just a plan, it's a process. That's really reassuring to hear. This whole deep dive has been eye-opening, honestly. I never would have thought that. Like, grass, plain old grass, could be so important.
Right. It just goes to show you how everything is connected. This one plan, it's got the potential to transform agriculture, not just in Uttar Pradesh, but maybe even beyond.
It's a great example of how research and innovation and just like plain old collaboration can make a real difference. For our listeners, if you're as fascinated by this as we are, keep your eyes on Uttar Pradesh. It's going to be really interesting to see how this whole thing plays out.